This is Jordan Tower with JT News. Make sure you smash that like button, smash that subscribe. And well, yes, Big Meech's concert was canceled, okay? But let's investigate BMF and, really how they fell apart. Like last night we were talking about O-Dog and his friend who got arrested and how they just gave up everything. They didn't even have to take the stand. They gave enough information to lead them to... What they really wanted was to cut the head off the snake. That's what the DA wanted. So underlings like that, give them some small time to get the bigger guys, So they started to break down the operation, and it led to that kind of information led to like where houses were that they kept stash houses at, accountants, ledgers, So everything kind of fell into their lap eventually because Big Meech and Terry weren't carefully watching the people who handled the legitimate businesses to wash the money and people who handled ledgers. That ledgers will... These are the guys who wash the money, and they know how money's washed and what goes where and what loads are picked up, and they keep it on a book. Let's get into this right here and break this down. This is how BMF just crumbled snitch by snitch. BMF, Big Meech, okay? And it's very, I've been, doing a lot of looking through like testimonies and everything and of people that turned on Big Meech and his brother Terry in their organization and how it was even able to be infiltrated because they had a great plan how to execute everything. There was just too many people involved and too many weak links, like this guy, O-Dog, a.k.a. Omari McCree. He didn't take the stand, but he gave them all the information they needed. He backed off and didn't take the stand, but he gave them so much information that led him to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, which eventually connected Big Meech and Terry to a lot of stuff. I mean, there's a bunch of snitches, man. There's also another guy right here. What's his name? AI Boyd. Okay, this guy was a Detroit player, but today we're going to be talking about William Doc Marshall. They called him BI as well, okay? So if you hear me say BI, this is Doc, okay? So he was one of the worst snitches because he took the stand. And he took the stand in 5 different states, detailing different portions of how this business worked. Now, I know Dexter Sosa says that he wasn't the accountant per se, that they say he was in keeping ledgers and stuff. But, okay, if he didn't have that, he at least had links to LLCs that they had set up to, shelter certain things and launder money through. So they claim that meaning the feds, claim that Doc kept all the books in a ledger and say they matched it to Meech's books, which I doubt that Big Meech kept books in his house of ledgers of expenses, profits and expenses and all that. I doubt they detailed all that on a pad and just kept it in their house, okay? But anyways, that's how they say they connected everything. The way I read in different things is they connected that there was this company called Exquisite, which they used to buy the cars through other people's names, and we'll detail how that worked. They found that name in Meech's mansion when they searched it because he was a suspect in a double homicide that he was found not guilty of. But when they searched the house, they did find something like that. And then when they searched, I'll tell you how they got to Doc. Okay, so BI. Okay, so anyways, William Doc Marshall, also known as BI, he dealt with Eric Bivens, or Slim, from Southwest Teesside. Now, they knew each other from Florida. They both came from Florida. They knew each other from there, and Eric Bivens, whatever you want to call him, or Slim, worked for Southwest T. And Doc did work with mostly with Big Meech, but eventually started doing business with Southwest T as well. Because he had to manage, you know, they had an elaborate distribution of, like, you know, when they got the work from their Connect and how they distributed it across. Remember, they were supplying most of the U.S. and then how they got it from these hubs. There was people in different hubs: Detroit, Tennessee, South Carolina, Florida, Atlanta, Texas, St. Louis. You know, these were hubs where they were sending large quantities of work to, and then to get distributed wholesale from there. But so it was a very detailed operation with lots of vehicles, drivers. And these are the people that you never really saw in the clubs, because the people you saw in the clubs were smoke and mirrors. Those were the people, and we'll get to that as well. Very intricate operation. So anyways, Southwest T and Big Meech, even though they were brothers, at this point in time, they were kind of at odds around like year 2000. So Big Meech had his crew in Atlanta, and Southwest T had his had his crew in California, and he would receive the work from the Connect, and then he would send it out to all these hubs. Big Meech's crew would receive them on the East Coast and in different spots. And, you know, they were both bosses, but, you know, they didn't get along so well. Anyways, a go-to between them was Doc, okay, because Doc handled different things. We'll get into that. So maybe we should get into so E was selling this guy Slim Bivens, right? Eric Bivens BI was actually buying weight. It's not a good mix to have this guy this guy BI, aka Doc, right? Actually moving work when he was actually, in charge of handling shelter companies and everything, right? But, hey, this is how things go south, okay? So E from Southwest T Crew was selling work to BI, and one night somebody ran into Doc's townhouse in Atlanta, and he killed the guy. Okay, the guy was trying to get in and get the work he had, and he killed him. And then eventually the cops picked him up, and they questioned him and everything, and they released him, even though they found a kilo in his house and they found a ledger that detailed a lot of BMF stuff, supposedly. I think really they didn't find a ledger. I think they found connects to like different businesses that he had set up, right? And they knew he was part of that the BMF organization, and they wanted to infiltrate this more. But they did let him go, and the feds intercepted him at an airport, and just after this, and they showed him pictures and everything, and asked him if he was willing to cooperate, and he said, "Well, would I be free of any, crimes you're charging me with?" And they said no. And he said, "Well, then you got to arrest me then," and they didn't at that time. They let him go. The feds tend to do this with a lot of things I see with crimes. They don't lock somebody up right away and stop them and get them off the street, even though when they go to court, they say they're a threat to the community and everything, and they can't get bond. Even though they know these people were a threat to the community and everything, they still let them free after they catch them red-handed, because they wanted to lead them to more crimes, because they say, hey, we need him out there because he's going to lead us to the main guy. So are they really a threat, when you let him out on a bond? I don't know, because if you were that concerned, you wouldn't have let him out the first time you had him, right? Anyways. So they charged Doc with 5 keys, and bank wire fraud eventually. This was for money laundering through a business called Exquisite Empire, which bought cars and houses for BMF members. Let's detail this before we get into the plea agreements he signed, okay? So, detailing this business, Exquisite, right? This is what they found in Big Meech's house when they searched it. So when they got Doc, when they went into Doc's house after he killed an intruder, and they found a kilo and they found the stuff for Exquisite, they knew they had a tie there, right? So they didn't arrest him right away. You know, they let him continue. But when they did arrest him that day, right? They brought him in, right? But they let him go. He did say that he got the kilo from Slim, aka Eric Bivens, who is on Southwest Teesside. So anyways, with Exquisite, they would find people to put car loans in their name. So they would find regular people that aren't connected to BMF to put car loans in their name, right? They'd probably pay them. And they would pay off 80% of the car and take a 20% loan on the car. Why? Well, because when BMF members would drive the cars, right? Say they got picked up for something. They usually would seize the car. Like, say they got someone for drugs or something. They would seize the car. And, but they had, if there's a loan on the car, they have to release the car back to the person holding the loan, right? So it would go back to Exquisite or another company they had at the time in 2004. I think it's obviously owned by somebody else now, but it was 404 Motorsports. This was one of their shell companies, right? That's an interesting story in itself that we have to delve into. 404 Motorsports is crazy. It's actually connected indirectly to a mayor of something, but he wasn't part of it, but his son-in-law was. So anyways, they had a whole system for these luxury cars and everything, and also the cars where they would build in stash spots too for drugs and stuff. They would find a way, so if someone was transporting or someone got caught with a weapon in a car, they couldn't seize the car. They would always get the car back. It was never in that person's name. It was in somebody else's name. Not only that, it was in somebody else's name, but the loan it would go right back to the car company, right? Because they get the car back. You can't keep the car, which is I don't know why these people would get paid to put loans, and then they'd have drug dealers driving the cars with a normal person's name on the loan. Anyways, this guy Burns, and I think his name was, I wrote Henry or something. They were the investigators that turned Doc. These are the guys that went to the airport, showed him the pictures, and he said, "You have to arrest me." Now, they claim that Doc kept the accounting of all expenses and income of BMF for both sides of the camp, Southwest T and Big Meech, so the West Coast and East Coast of the operation. And he created fake W-2s for legit income for BMF members to, make it look like they were legit. He would create a fake travel agency to book flights. So everything was done really on the books, everyone looked really clean. Everybody in BMF had fake driver's licenses and stuff in case they had to go on the run or something. Say some cop pulled them over, they give them a fake license and say they had to pull off and try to get away. They wouldn't have the person's name. Or say they were getting an apartment or something, get it in a false name so it's not on your real name, so you can leave it and leave it in the drop of a hat and nobody can trace your actual name to the property or to you running from a situation, or maybe you're purchasing weapons legally, because they had people that working in Tennessee DMV and they could get these fake licenses and everything. I mean, Doc details this in his testimony. He's given him everything. All this stuff I'm telling you, he gave him in the testimony. So, anyways, Doc witnessed Southwest T with 100 kilos at a time at a place called the White House in Atlanta, and even on the West Coast, 100 keys at a time. He witnessed J-Bo, who was the face of Big Meech. He handled keys in the White House in Atlanta. This was a hub where they got a lot of the keys for in Atlanta. And Doc handled outfitting the cars with secret compartments for transport in that part of the region, the Atlanta region. So you'll see a Hummer with these. The way they outfitted the cars is they would take out weight from the car so that when they put keys in the car, it would register as the same weight on the VIN number. So if the car was ever at a weigh station or weighed, because the cops would weigh things to make sure, if the weight's off, they're going to search the vehicle, right? But if it matches the VIN number's weight or around it, they're not going to, they have no probable cause to search the vehicle. And they would do this with money, too. They would always alter the weight, but keep everything original in the car and everything working, so you wouldn't suspect that there is a stash spot in the car or weird stuff. Anyways, he would also meet with Southwest T's guy Slim and go over numbers from the West Coast of the operation. Never discuss business over the phone. Now, let me see. Before we get to the next part, let's say, so when he took the stand, he signed a plea agreement out of Orlando for drug distribution. He got 100 months and detailed the structure of BMF for Orlando, Tennessee, Detroit, South Carolina. And he went to each state to testify. He got a reduction to 100 months from 20 years. So that's he got almost half his sentence reduced. He pleaded guilty to a Georgia agreement, and the condition of the agreement is the government can request his cooperation at any time to tell the truth, meaning corroborate the story they want him to tell, right? Talks how false IDs were created by having a contact in the DMV. We went over that in Tennessee. Fake IDs was for illegal activities like driving drugs and getting weapons and more stuff like that. Now, we'll break down his testimony more in another thing, because this could go on forever, But that's a basic gist of it. He broke down how intricate their organization was, and it matched other snitches' testimonies, of having these shell companies for cars, and these companies wouldn't make any money. It was all funded by it was just filtering money through the drug money through and so Doc with another guy, we'll get into him on another segment, but his name was Arnold Boyd, AI, Southwest T's guy. He was a trusted Detroit manager, so he handled the Detroit region. He grew up with the Flannery brothers since so he's been part of the organization since 1983 and started out as Southwest T's driver. He got 4 years shaved off a 10-year sentence, and he handed over he handled the transport of kilos from Detroit and processed kilos. He detailed the operation of how kilos would come into Detroit and they would be distributed to other hubs. He also gave up Southwest T evading. This is how Jacob the Jeweler got involved and arrested. He would evade government, paying the government taxes and everything with diamonds and jewelry from Jacob the Jeweler. So he would hide his money and jewelry. He would give him money, he'd give him jewelry. That way he had ways to sell things and get legit money. You could sell the jewelry and get money, or, you know, he just had jewelry. He had money and jewels, you know, diamonds and stuff. He described the White House in ATL, this guy, AI Boyd, and how, you know, Southwest T and Slim would be there from the West Coast operation in Atlanta with 100 keys, loading up money, $250,000 with Jermaine Kiki Graham. He implicated him. Kiki ran 404 Motorsports in Atlanta, which was another car operation. And Southwest T, he connected Southwest T to 404 Motorsports. He put $800,000 into it. Now, we'll have to break this 404 Motorsports down, another one, and we'll break down in detail Doc's. We'll read his testimony and AI Boyd's and everybody's, but basically, this 404 Motorsports lost money. It's back in operation now, but obviously somebody else owns it, you know. But this dealership that they had supplied Hummers, Jaguars, Ferraris. Even Jermaine Dupri shopped here. It wasn't just for BMF. It was an actual. It was an actual dealership. These kind of places exist, okay? You know, and basically, it would make it so, like, when you sold cars to BMF and everything, they would do the whole loan scheme through Exquisite, and which is, you know, run by and set up by the Doc guy, right? BI. And basically, this is how they would get their cars back if they were seized. They also, and so, you know, they connected all this stuff to the Black Mafia family, 404 Motorsports, and one of the guys who worked there, I guess he was, like, married to one of a mayor, and the mayor helped him get out of some jams, you know, when Graham disappeared in October 2004, he was out on bond under the condition that he was confined to his Marietta home. He shared with his wife, but after he cut his ankle monitor, she divorced her husband, of course. But this guy got caught up in some, like, killing thing, you know, like, that's a whole different thing. But, you know, he had something to do with the 404 Motorsports, which lost money. Maybe he ran it. I don't know. But, you know, I got to read more into that. But very crazy, man. Anyways, this guy Doc connected a lot of dots and also made it a criminal conspiracy. You know, it helped form their criminal conspiracy for Terry and Big Meech. And, you know, this is the kind of things they got him on, you know. And talking about the smoke and mirrors, Blue Da Vinci was part of the record label part of called BMF, right? That Big Meech was, you know, pushing. And their thought of this was, it's a good plan. It's just that you get a lot of weak links around you at this point. So you got Blue Da Vinci as the rapper, and then you got all these guys going out to the club every night, right? Big Meech always made sure that anybody that was actually doing anything really wasn't on tape like that, right? I'm talking about major players, like people moving lots of weight, like 100 keys, you know, 1,000 keys a week or something. You know, it's like you don't want those people implicated because that's the core of your operation. But, you know, you'd have like lower level people out in these clubs, and his thought was that he knew that there was an investigation on him because they had investigators on the payroll, right, that would give him information about stuff, right? And they never detailed those guys. They never sold any agents out or anything, right? Which I respect, you know, because like that's snitching too, right? But basically, these guys, they knew that there was a certain amount of money allocated to their investigation, and they used the rap stuff and going out to the clubs and everything. The guys that went to the clubs and everything, they used that as a distraction. They would be following these people all the time, right? Spending money. It costs money to follow people and investigate them and survey them. So they'd be following these guys, and they'd be really decoys, because the real guys doing stuff aren't at the club and everything. They're not part of the record label. So, but they would think, oh, these guys have all the cars and the money, and they're spending all the money. These are the guys, man. These are the dealers. And it almost worked, but you got some guys like O-Dog and stuff that were doing small level stuff, like moving 5 keys or something, and to them that's small, because they're moving 1,000 keys a week, thousands of keys a week probably, maybe more than that. But these guys would flip, and it would connect him to another guy, It was a chain, like O-Dog implicated J-Bo, and J-Bo was right under Meech. J-Bo didn't tell or anything, but it was just another guy down, and then, eventually you get Doc, and he's able to connect Meech to this. It's like they are able to build a conspiracy case as more people fall. Well, I hope you like that one. I'll keep you up to date on what's going on with BMF and Big Meech's concert. He still has yet to announce it was canceled. It just was a thing. I guess Rick Ross was the one that canceled it in the arena, but Big Meech didn't come out himself. Kind of cowardly, if you ask me. Smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. I'll check you on the next one. Peace.